Hello, my name is Jackie Garringer McDermott, and we are recording live from the English Valley's History Center in North English, Iowa. It is December 28th, 2024. This diary or journal was written by my great-great-aunt, Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade, who was known as Libby Wade. Here's a picture of Libby, taken a few years after the diaries were written. She was my grandmother's aunt and the matriarch of our very large family. Libby lived a half a block east of Main Street in a little house on Oak Street in North English, Iowa, until near the end of her life in 1959. I don't remember her, but she knew me as a baby. Downtown North English was also the center of my life as I grew up. I would like to introduce you, page by page, to the cast of characters from North English, Iowa, and the surrounding English Valleys area. March 1st, 1946. Neither lion nor lamb. Weathermen said more like a gray duck with water dripping from its wings. Mild rain, some snow. All melted soon. Hattie was here, brought Leona's gift from the lodge, still coughing. There's an old saying that if March comes in or begins like a lion, meaning with harsh weather, March will end or go out like a lamb with mild weather. Libby is saying that the weather today is neither harsh nor mild. Hattie is Hattie Killian, her 55-year-old friend from Lodge, who has returned to live in North English to care for her elderly mother, Clara Harper Newberry. Since Lib has the word gift in quotation marks, I assumed it was a white elephant gift that she received from the Lodge. March 2nd, 1946. Bertha was here. Bigley's sale. Warm and sunny. Cleaned the rooms downstairs and also the stove. About wore myself out. Russell's cold still hangs on. Neither of us wants to eat. Miss McDonald was here in the evening. Bertha Claypool Garringer is my paternal grandmother. Right here. Libby's niece. And daughter of her brother Benton. You might remember that Mrs. Bigley passed away a few weeks ago. They are having the sale of Mr. Bigley's household goods already. I presume he is moving with relatives elsewhere. Russell is her son. There's a picture of Russell. We called him Tyler Wade. He lives in the house with Libby. Miss McDonald is Theresia McDonald, the mother of Wade McDonald. Here she is. She will soon begin employment as the housekeeper for the Catholic priest, Father Dugan, who lives a block away on Boland Avenue. March 3rd, 1946. Been alone all p.m. Hattie was here in the evening. Russell bought 100 pounds of flour home today. Jenny was here a while, also Wayne. Warm and like spring, heard a robin. Russell's away in the car. Jenny and Wayne are her oldest son and his wife. Jenny Wade and her husband Wayne. We called Wayne Perky Wade. You might notice that Libby purchased 100 pounds of flour at one time. As we will learn over the next few years, there is a lot of baking and cooking that goes on in this house. When the diaries are written in a bigger book, Libby becomes more descriptive of daily life. March 4th, 1946. Russell was sick and my cough is no better, so Dr. M came. Hattie, Mary R., and Millie Knipfer were here. I had a letter from Milan. Jenny brought the mail. Bought eggs from MR, now 31 cents. Dr. Miller was Dr. L.A. Miller, the longtime doctor in the North English community. Right here we have a picture of him when he was younger up on this side, and on this side when he was older. These are storyboards that are on the wall here in the History Center in case anybody's interested in where we're getting these pictures. Dr. Miller was making a house call to see Lib. Lib's visitors are Hattie Killian, her friend that I mentioned before, Mary Regseger, her egg lady and her friend from down the street, and Millie Knipfer, the grandmother of Doris Brock from South English. Mylan Cray is her grandson in Texas who was in the Navy. March 5th, 1946. Russell went to Cedar Rapids for the lumber company. Came home sick again. Raining in the evening and fog. Hazel stopped on the way from work. I feel some better, but I'm still sore from coughing. Hattie was here a few minutes. Truman and Churchill were at Westminster College. Russell went to Cedar Rapids for the home lumber company where he works. Hazel Cobb is her married granddaughter. Hattie is her friend, Hattie Killian. Truman was the President of the United States, and he met with the Prime Minister of England at Westminster College. Lib gets all of her news from the radio. March 6, 1946. Rain in the morning. Russell was not able to go to work, sick and vomiting, doesn't eat. Cleared off and will be colder. There's a new baby at Clifford Bear's a few days ago. I looked it up, and Mr. and Mrs. Clifford Bear's new baby was Leanne Marie Bear. Their children later attended Tri-County schools. March 7th, 1946. Hattie went to Cedar Rapids by bus. Russell went up to Dr. Miller's in the evening for more medicine. Nice and warm today. Stormy weather predicted. Had a letter from Harold Claypool. Ruth Mall came and took her flowers home. Hattie Killian went by bus to Cedar Rapids. In those days, there was regular bus service to and from Cedar Rapids from North English. She probably went to visit or shop with her family member and friends since she used to live in Cedar Rapids. Did you notice that Russell went up to Dr. Miller's medical office in the evening? Many businesses kept late hours into the evening, including the town doctor. Harold Claypool was her great-nephew who was in the service. Harold later had a feed store in North English and then lived in Sigourney and was the father of my childhood friend, Linda Claypool. Ruth Mall was later known in later life as Ruth Edens. She was the widow of Libby's nephew, John Josiah Jack Mall Jr. I believe maybe Libby might have had on her second story in her house was warm enough to keep flowers over the winter. I'm not really sure about that. I'm going to learn more about that later. March 8th, 1946. Bertha called and told of Donald's baby girl, born last evening. Snowy, wind, and cold today. Russell is not feeling any better yet. I have a sore throat and feeling rough. Bertha was my grandmother, Bertha Claypool Garringer, right here in this picture. And all these pictures, actually. She was Libby's niece. Donald was her son, Donald Garringer, who was married to Dorothy Fritz Garringer. The baby girl is my cousin, Donna Ray Garringer, who we went to Alabama to see last February. Here's a picture of Donald and Dorothy and their 6 children out at Grandma and Grandpa's farm in 1956. Donna is the one in the center. I also have a picture of Donna in 1946, the year she was born. This picture is Mrs. Cram, and I don't know if that's the same Mrs. Cram in the stories that we've been talking, but maybe, and Aunt Dorothy, and Donna Ray, who was born in 1946. March 9th, 1946. Norman C. scooped the snow from the walks and did other chores for me. Bright but cold. Was 10 degrees above zero at 8 a.m. We are still no good. Jenny brought up some medicine for Russell. It seems to help. More snow in the afternoon. Norman C. was Norman Claypool. He was the son of Kenny Claypool, who later lived at Watshire. Norman was the great-grandson of Libby's cousin Wallace Claypool. He was in the 6th grade in 1946 at North English School. Jenny is her daughter-in-law. This picture of Jenny. The wife of Wayner Perky Wade. March 10th, 1946, Mr. Hamilton's 89th birthday. We are both some better. Wayne, Jenny, Evelyn, and Hazel were here, and also Sue and Hattie. Lots of snow. Evelyn said they had lots more snow than is here. It's melting in the afternoon. Wayne was their oldest son, and Jenny is his wife. There's their picture. Evelyn and Hazel were their daughters. They're in this picture. Hazel is over there, and Evelyn is at the top. And Sue was their granddaughter, Suzanne Kurtz. Hattie was her friend and neighbor, Hattie Killian. March 11th, 1946, clear and warmer. Russell went to work, not very good yet. Snow melted fast, nearly all gone. Russell was her youngest son who lived in the house with her. March 12th, 1946. Jenny was here. She and others had gone over to Lila Curl's, helping clean the house. Mrs. C. fell and is in the hospital in Sigourney. Lena helped in the PM. Operetta last night at the school. Hattie was here after lodge. The temperature was almost 70 degrees today. I sent Anna a scarf. Jenny was the daughter-in-law. Lila Curl was a relative or a friend on the Wade side of the family, I believe. And Anna Wade Cray is her daughter who lives in Texas. I found a newspaper article about the operetta. Sunny of Sunnyside, to be presented at the high school auditorium. That would be the grade school gym now. On Tuesday evening, March 12th at 7:30 o'clock. All of the grade school pupils are either in the operetta or the rhythm band. The lower grade will furnish music between sets. Don't fail to attend, you will be well rewarded. And then I found a list of the children that performed that night. The people that I knew were Shirley Cobb Fetzer, Mary Lou Lockridge Harris, Doris Prandy, Betty Gilchrist Donahue, Janet Van Auken Morrison, Larry Kirkpatrick, Dolores Wilkerson Wardenberg, Terry Hogendorn, my Uncle Arnold Garringer, and Myrna Miller Rose. Kenny Donahue was supposed to be in it, but he was ill, so Arnold Garringer took over the part with only 1 day practice. The teachers were Mr. Brainerd, our longtime band and chorus teacher, Mrs. King, which I believe was Mrs. Rose King, and Mrs. Wade, which would have been Mrs. Frida Wade. March 13th, 1946. Lena and Judy here in the AM. Still warm, a little rain. Amy's baby, Ray Elroy, is 2 years old now. Lena is the wife of Warren or Mike Wade, and Judy is their daughter. Amy Claypool Hervey, who later lived at South English, is Libby's great niece. This is her folks. This is Ray, her nephew, and his wife. I don't have a picture of Amy. I'll have to get one of her. And Ray Elroy Hervey is her son. March 14th, 1946. Hattie was here a few minutes, also Maud. I sent Lita some pussy willows by Fanny. Lita is quite poorly. Rainy and warm. A letter from Anna. Judy and Marcia H. were here. Hattie is her friend and neighbor, Hattie Killian. Maud is the wife of Ray Claypool that I just showed in this other picture right here. Her niece. And Lita is Orlita Lavelle, the sister of Fanny Millen, Doris Reese, Mabel Elliott, and Helen Geiger. I was not familiar with her name, so I found her obituary on Find a Grave, and it told the story of the family. The maiden name of all the women mentioned was Roller. Lita passed away in her early 50s in 1947. Lita was Libby's friend from the Rebecca Lodge and had been a former school teacher. Fanny was Fanny Roller Mullen. I'm not sure if Libby grew plants or flowers on the second floor of her house or not, but anyway, she sent her friend a plant. Anna is Libby's daughter who lives in Texas, and Judy is her granddaughter, Judy Wade, the daughter of Warren Mike and Lena Wade. Marcia H. is Marcia Hogendorn, the daughter of newspaper editor Carl Hogendorn and his wife, Bertilla. Featured person of the day. The featured person today is my grandpa, John Garringer. I'm checking to see if any of my 46 Garringer cousins are listening today. John Garringer was the husband of Libby's niece, Bertha Claypool Garringer. John was born in April 18th, 1898 in Putnam County, Missouri, and moved to Iowa with his parents as a youngster. He attended Oak Ridge School. I have a picture of that. I'm going to hold it up here so you can see it because this is the good one. It's in this bigger book that we have here. And then I'm going to hold up a smaller version of it so I can read who the people are to you. Some of the classmates that I have heard of are down in the front. This is Harold Riley Floring, a friend of my friend Alice Floring and her sisters. Modena Hall Martin, the mother of Julie Reber, and Quincy Lockridge is this one. The father of Mary Lou Harris. And then this one here is Grandpa John Garringer. John married Bertha Claypool on August 28, 1918 at the Methodist parsonage. They were the parents of 11 sons. Glenn, who we called Sparky, Donald, Al, Benton or Doc, Marvin, John Francis, my dad, Arnold, Bob, Dean, Chuck, and Ronnie. The family was devastated by the loss of the youngest son, Ronnie, in a tractor accident in 1960. They were very proud of their sons, who were returning from the service in 1946, Glenn, Donald, and Doc. Later on, Marvin, Francis, Arnold, and Bob would also spend time in the armed forces. Some of their grandsons also served. John Lester and John David and Steve, as well as the 4 grandsons who were in Vietnam, Buck, Larry, Dale, and Joe. Grandpa started farming in the early days with horses and mules, eventually switching to tractors. In 1933, he was severely injured when he was kicked in the face by a horse. He spent many months. This is a story on that. He spent many months recovering. He raised row crops and oats, corn, hay, and alfalfa. According to his closing out sale in 1945, he had horses, cattle, milk cows, pigs, and 500 chickens. In 1946, the farm was rented and the family moved to town, where Grandpa John and Uncle Glenn, or Sparky, ran a gas station on Main Street, where the Powell Funeral Home parking lot is today. In a few years, he went back to farming again, and then moved back into town as my dad Francis was renting their farm in 1955 when I was born. I remember spending Christmas at the farm with them in the early 1960s. My brother remembers that the family used a calendar and cut up the dates to use the numbers to draw the numbers of a grandchild to buy a present for in a gift exchange. All 47 of us were not born yet then. I also remember they had well water at the farm, which tasted so good, and they had aluminum cups to drink from. In 1963, my Garringer grandparents moved to town to retire and sold the farm, living first in a rental house and then buying our house at 225 East Washington Street after my family moved to the house on Summit Street in 1964. The stove in the house caused a fire in 1965, and I found a story about that too in the newspapers. And they later completely remodeled it after living in several rental houses. Grandpa was a very hard worker, teaching us all a wonderful work ethic. He smoked a pipe and was very thin and wore overalls. For a retirement job, he mowed with Vic Van Dyke. Maybe that is where we got the idea for retirement jobs. He and Vic mowed the cemeteries and the city park. My brothers remember visiting him when he trimmed around the benches that were set up in front of the shelter house. Each bench was trimmed around by hand as they did not have weed eaters in those days. My brothers also remember that the land behind Washington Street, the Washington Street house, was very swampy in those days. There were snakes in the low-lying areas. They remember Grandpa picking up a snake and doing a flicking motion to kill the snake. After Grandma passed away, I remember Grandpa had me dive down into the freezer to retrieve any bills that he had stashed away in the freezer. I thought that was a neat place to hide money. Grandpa spent from 1980 to 1983 at the English Valleys Care Center. Correspondence, etc. for December 28, 2024. My friend Paula Kirkpatrick, who listens to my broadcasts, is a retired Tri-County teacher. And she writes, we rented a house from Glenn and Hazel Cobb when we moved to North English in 1988. Chris Cobb Galligan said, it is so fun to hear about relatives like my Aunt Hazel Cobb and to hear names I haven't thought of for years. And through this, we figured out that Jackie and I are related. There are so many ties to the English Valley area. Her mother, Nellie Van D. Cobb, and my mom are first cousins on the Van D side. Jude Kerr Kriebel said, thank you for honoring Dad this week. What a nice surprise. Blessings as you continue sharing your knowledge of the past. Vicki Orndorff Johnson said, your broadcast makes me so happy. Thank you. Sharon Wilhite Hagen said, very interesting broadcast, Jackie. Keep up the good work. Mark Claypool says, Jackie, another amazing week of presenting the history of our town and community. I remember the doctor's office and the smell of tobacco, pipe tobacco, and young Doc chewing his gum extremely fast at the time with a pipe in his mouth while examining me. Look forward to seeing your next podcast. Pam Kavanaugh Shields says, excellent broadcast as always, Jackie. It warms my heart that you continue to share about our hometown. Some of the stories actually make me feel as if I'm back there. Thank you for your continuing dedication to sharing the history of North English. It will always be home. Andy Weber says, very good. I enjoyed every minute of it. Look forward to this each Saturday. Thank you for your dedication. I heard from Libby's great-great-granddaughter, the granddaughter of Belva Yoss, Tammy Vitt Steinerson. Tammy said, turkey sandwiches were the best. Can you research the recipe? I would love to know. Thanks for sharing. You do an amazing job. Surely someone is still around who might be in the know on how they made the turkey sandwiches that were served at the Vets building below Knowles Pharmacy. I looked in the newspaper and found out that they were served at least from 1966 to 1970 and maybe longer, with 1,171 sandwiches the first year, taking 300 pounds of turkey to make. Coffee and chocolate milk were also served. The highest number was 1,692 in 1969. It was a commercial club event. The only names I could see who might still remember if there was a turkey for the recipe for the turkey sandwiches or just ground turkey would be Winston Claypool, Geraldine Westfall, or maybe Diane Terrell. My friend Helen Kirkpatrick Schwietert called from Colesburg, Iowa, and Lake Placid, Florida. Called on her way from Miami last Sunday afternoon to tell me how much she liked my broadcast. Thank you for your support, Helen. Helen would like me to do a program on the big fire. That program will be coming soon, for sure. First, I need to do a history of the History Center, which was Berkham's grocery store and some of the businesses uptown. Coming really soon is some more information about the creamery and Art Carter's Dairy. I'm also working on histories of older folks from the areas that I would like to feature. Alice Floring Stramer said she watched the YouTube podcast early Sunday morning. Another wonderful history lesson of people from North English. Thank you so much for exposing us to your efforts and bringing your relatives to light. I'm enjoying. I ran into one of my fans, Vicki Greiner from Sigourney, who was having lunch with my friend Malia Wilkerson-Snakenberg. Malia said her grandson really likes history and would like my broadcasts. I think we talked Malia into getting onto YouTube to watch too. Malia remembers playing down on the railroad tracks where the Smoky Roll Trail is now. I remember it too because we got in major trouble for going down those tracks with a train still running on them when I was less than 8 years old when we lived on Smoky Row. My brother Tom Garringer said that he and Bill Gerard had a fort down near the water where the new bridge has now been built on the Smoky Row Trail. Regarding my broadcast on Homer Carr, Scott Romine says that he remembers Homer was on the school board with his dad, Bill Romine, when the voting was going on to merge the schools and build the high school. Homer favored the idea to build the school in South English on the north edge of town. I said I heard there were more ideas to put the high school on the Pigeon Road so that it would be more centrally located. Scott said the bond issue finally passed on the 9th try when there was not a site named. Scott said that Frank Allen, the druggist, left money towards purchasing the site if the site was within a mile of downtown North English. There was a site near the present Dave Axmere farm, and then the site that was actually chosen, which both qualified. Scott believes that the site that was chosen was probably the best because it's now in town where there's access to city water and city sewer. Scott Romine asked a question last week about Stan Lowndes' baseball uniform with the Legion logo on it. We have learned that there was a semi-pro team sponsored by the Legion in 1946. Stan was discharged from the service in August of 1946, probably still in time to play in that league that summer. Maybe some of you have been following Scott Romine's post about all the different Santas that we've had over the years in the English Valleys area. It is very interesting to see all the children and all the different Santas. People my age remember when we went to the home lumberyard to see Santa. I researched a little and found out that Santa started coming to the home lumber company, or the lumberyard as we called it, in 1946. Santa was mentioned uptown before that, but it does not say precisely where. I'm going to show you a picture. This picture comes from some color slides that my brother Lou and I discovered last year when we cleaned out our parents' keepsakes. This is the view of the home lumber company from across the street at my dad's standard service station in about 1960. I am not in the picture because I was probably at school. This is my sister Rita and Lou and my brother Chip, or Mike is his right name. The big door on this side of the home lumber company was where we entered the lumberyard in a very large group and made our way around the unheated building on a dirt floor to see Santa. Lou says this building was just as deep as the present-day grocery store. We did not come out the south door, but we went in the office to see Santa for a moment and then received a nice sack of treats and exited the office door. Santa at the lumberyard lasted until at least the late 1960s because my brother Tom remembers it, but Lou does not think it was still there in 1977 when he started working at the Lumberyard, as he would have been in on helping setting it up, and he wasn't. Maybe it went to the fire station after that. I'm not exactly sure from looking at the newspapers. They did say that Santa arrived by helicopter in the bank parking lot in 1969. We have now set up a channel on YouTube where the podcast can be viewed. That is easier than hunting on my Facebook page for the broadcast. So far, we have had over 200 views on YouTube. They are archived by date of broadcast. We invite you to subscribe, like, share, and tell your friends. We will also continue to be on Facebook each week. Funding for the History Center comes from Iowa County 100 Plus Who Care and the Iowa County Community Foundation. However, we welcome your donations to keep the heat and lights on. Please send donations to the English Valley's History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. We also got broadband service to this building and we'll be upgrading the computer soon so we can upload quicker on Saturday morning. I'm also looking at some enhancements for showing pictures more clearly. Scott and Bonnie Romine are working on a set of programs for 2025, which they will announce soon. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valley's items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. Goodbye, and we'll see you next week.